got to college, someone told me that the way you know you're in the right major is when you look at the course offerings and you can't wait to take all of them. I think that I am one of the luckiest college students ever for just loving my degree so much.
I'm really happy that I decided to major in LSJ because it's a much smaller department than my other major. And so the classes are smaller, the teachers are a lot more in tune with their students, they know their names. It's just a much more personal experience, and they're willing to go the extra mile to help you out.
LSJ was actually one of the reasons I came to UW in the first place. I found out about the major in high school, and I was really interested in examining the law from so many different perspectives.
I would contact victims and witnesses of misdemeanor crimes and get their statements over the phone, transcribe it, usually typing it, and then pass it on to the prosecutor, and he would decide if he would want to file charges in the case. And it was awesome because so many government agencies are so underfunded, they actually need their interns to do real work instead of just pushing papers around. So I was actually able to do all work that a paralegal would normally do.
It's really interesting. I never in my life thought that I would do anything related to public defense. I kind of just stumbled upon it, needed an internship. But it's taught me a lot representing the automatically assumed guilty, and I've learned a lot about the presumption of innocence and how people come from different circumstances and backgrounds, and there's things that are beyond people's control, but people still have essential rights and freedoms that should be respected. And so I have a lot of respect for the attorneys that I work with and the people that work in the office. It's tireless work, often thankless, and it's been a really great experience.
Probably my favorite part of senior year has been just the community aspect I've finally really experienced in LSJ. Up till now, I took a lot of different classes and didn't really get that sense of community, but with the honors option this year and just having smaller classes, I really got to engage with a lot of other LSJ majors, and it felt like a small little LSJ family.
One of my favorite memories was just being in the classes and being able to talk to people who had strong opinions and were able to back them up. It was just that intellectual discussion that really sold the major for me.
I'd always been interested in philosophy, and it was such a different take on law, sort of as this dry, written thing that's just kind of static. Understanding why the law is the way it is was really interesting, and I feel like gave me a really well-rounded perspective, even though it was so frustrating at times because there were no straight answers, but at the same time it was puzzling through to try and come at impossible answers, or part of the process was realizing that there are no solutions to some of these problems, but the process of trying to arrive at impossible solutions is the most important part.
Outside of academically preparing me, it's really helped narrow my focus on the good I want to do. Not only to introduce me to problems with immigration policy, it helped me show me steps towards reform. And so I hope my possible experience as well to remove some obstacles for individuals that are burdened by
So I plan on working in human rights and refugee law, and that's definitely been influenced by a lot of the courses I've taken as part of the LSJ major, which kind of enabled me to look at how human rights law functions in culture and practice, and it's definitely given me that interest that this is an area.
LSJ has a very strong focus on writing, so that's one of the things I took away. Writing being super important to communicating. That's how we transfer ideas, that's how we communicate essentially. And so LSJ kind of whipped me into shape with my writing.
Sometimes it almost leaves you with a sense of hopelessness, the LSJ major, because there's so many problems throughout the world that you're like, wow, what am I going to be able to do to fix this? But I also think that through the major it helps give you some of the tools that you need to analyze these problems and address them sufficiently, and eventually hope we can solve some of these issues in the world.
The most meaningful experiences were any classes with Jonathan Winder, because he's such an enthusiastic teacher, and his course material will stick with me for life, and I will always exoticize the familiar now.
My favorite part was how I never felt lost in LSJ. I felt like all of the classes tied together so well. Each one kind of felt like it built on the other one, and it was just like putting pieces together of a puzzle.
There's a book called Letters to a Young Poet, and there's this long passage that I love, and I don't know the whole thing, but basically the most important part is the idea that there are these questions that are unresolved within yourself. And the quote tells you to live the questions, right? Be okay with not knowing what's gonna happen, right? Things will happen, right? And the passage goes on to say someday you'll live into the answer, you know, but the point is right now, as we're graduating, to live the questions and be okay with this insecurity. And it's the scariest, hardest thing to do, right? As we're at this transition, and who knows what's gonna happen, but it will happen and you'll be fine.
Just say yes and see kind of where that leads us, because I think saying yes, something I've struggled with for a long time, and now that I've realized I should just say yes and take the chance, it's led me to a lot of really cool opportunities.
The advice that I would have for the graduating class is just to remember to be good people first and do whatever that they do with integrity and respect for others.
I guess I could probably just tell you guys, watch them here,